This research article was done on public perceptions of the use of gloves by healthcare workers in comparison with perceptions of student nurses. Introduction. The study is about overuse of non-sterile clinical gloves in the healthcare setting. The use of non-sterile gloves came about in the mid-1980s. It was recommended that healthcare workers use NSCGs to protect against bloodborne viruses and blood and body fluids. It then became standard that personal protective equipment, PPE, be used when in direct contact with blood and body fluids. However, the use of NSCG has warranted further studies. The purpose of this study is to view the public's perception on the use of NSCGs and compare them with the perception of nurse students. The research questions are third-year student nurses using NSCGs appropriately? And what is the public's perception on the use of NSCGs, and do they think they are appropriately used? Sampling. Sampling was done using the snowball sampling technique. This technique is where existing study subjects recruit further subjects from among their acquaintances. Members of the public were recruited via social media from contacts of the research team, members of the HCAI Service User Research Forum, SURF, and public involvement contacts of the research team, and from a notice in the university e-newsletter. Recruitment. The questionnaire was given to nurse students when they attended a university-based practice class that asked about their use of NSCGs. This was done without additional training and based solely on what they had already been practicing. The public were recruited via social media from contacts of the research team, members of the HCAI Service User Research Forum, public involvement contacts of the research team, and from a notice in the university e-letter. The participants were asked to complete an online survey about the views on whether or not they liked healthcare workers to use gloves for certain activities. Data analysis. The data collection instrument was a questionnaire given to the respondents. Correlations between tasks were identified using exploratory factor analysis. Respondents replied to a series of 46 questions that were somewhat similar. This in turn allowed the analysis to make inferences based upon the answers. If the answers warranted similar responses, then it would be concluded that there may be a correlation between the two and the reason behind the respondent's answer. Discussion. The study demonstrated that almost all student nurses reported using NSCG for procedures involving risk of contact with blood and body fluids. Many nurses also use NSCGs for rather low-risk tasks that would not otherwise require the use of gloves. Less than 40% of the student nurses say that their decision to use gloves are influenced by other staff members. Only half of the students said that their tutors influenced their use of NSCGs. Most student nurses use NSCGs by their own personal judgment. Student nurses tend to use emotions to determine if they should wear NSCGs, usually wearing NSCGs when they feel emotionally dirty. This in turn leads the student nurse to believe that NSCGs lessen the need for general hand hygiene. Research questions. Were they answered? The study answered both questions. 76% of the student nurses indicated that they use NSCG for low-risk tasks, and the study concluded from their responses that this has come about through their own judgment. The public respondents reported being uncomfortable when healthcare workers use NSCGs for low-risk tasks such as dressing, assisting to the toilet, or other personal tasks. However, they prefer the use of NSCGs for washing their private parts. Study limitations. Study limitations were that there's a small group of nursing students from the university class, and that it may not present all students or healthcare workers. Some participants were members of service user groups and may have interest in the HCAIs and gloves. In conclusion, this study has shown that nursing students routinely use NSCGs inappropriately and for the low-risk task. Inappropriate use of NSCGs can lead to cross-contamination. The study also showed that the public is uncomfortable with some uses of NSCGs by healthcare workers. The public has noticed the inappropriate use and must be considered when choosing to wear gloves for a low-risk task. It has been recommended that policies be put in place for the use of NSCGs. This, in turn, would inform nurses of appropriate use of gloves and the risk of cross-contamination. And this is my reference. Thank you.